Hello and welcome. My name is Cory Ahonen, and I'm the Deputy Director of Health and Community Services for Financial and Veterans Services. Since 2018, I've been the Veterans Services Officer for the town of Easton, and during a recent reorganization in our department, I became the Deputy Director for Financial and Veterans Services. Under this new role, I provide services to veterans as well as any resident needing financial assistance to maintain their housing, utilities, employment, and food security. Through referrals to outside agencies, my office will work with residents and their families to determine individual needs and program eligibility. The purpose of this program is to provide valuable information to our veterans about the benefits they have earned through service to our country. Over the next few segments, you will see informational interviews with subject matter experts on VA healthcare, VA education benefits, vet centers, VA home loans, and other service providers in the veteran community. Let's begin by discussing some local supportive services available to our veterans. What is a Veteran Service Officer? A Veteran Service Officer, or a VSO, is a municipal employee that provides assistance to veterans and families regarding federal, state, and local benefits. The VSO is an advocate for veterans in the community. The VSO's job is to help other veterans in the community learn about, apply, and in some cases, receive benefits. Every VSO is a veteran. To be defined as a veteran under the Massachusetts general law, a person is required to either have 180 days of active duty service and be discharged or released under honorable conditions, or have 90 days of active duty service, 1 day of which is during wartime, and be discharged or released under honorable conditions, except for Vietnam I, which requires 180 days of active duty services. Any questions on this can be directed to my office. Mostly can be answered on your discharge documents, whether that be a DD-214 or NGB-22 for National Guard. Next, we'll discuss some monetary benefits and assistance. VA compensation. This is VA disability compensation, and it ranges from $152.65 per month to $3,517 per month, excluding what you will receive for dependents, children, and dependent parents. VA compensation, disability compensation is a compensation program where veterans can be evaluated for injuries or medical conditions sustained during service that can be connected to their military service, and they will be compensated for those through this program. Now, along with the VA compensation comes a lot of other benefits, including state annuities, property tax exemptions, and a variety of other benefits. But for now, to keep it simple here, we will just discuss the basic overview. VA pension is a needs-based, means-tested program for lower income asset eligible individuals, and is also sometimes known as the non-service connected pension. It's also based on age and time of service. There are also property tax exemptions for veterans, blind veterans, service-connected disabled, 10% to 100%, and they range in as they are specific to each community. The state minimums are $400 for a 10% service-connected disabled veteran to receive off their property tax, all the way up to a full property tax exemption. In the town of Easton, we recently passed the Massachusetts General Law, Section 22F, which Section 22F exempts a full property tax for a Gold Star parents residents in the town of Easton. There are also additional benefits, special monthly compensation, aid and attendance. Aid and attendance is when a veteran may need special assistance in completing activities of daily living, such as grooming, getting dressed, handling medications, bathing, preparing meals, and other essential activities of daily living. This benefit can add an extension to either the 100% VA rating or the VA pension eligible individual. Those are the two ways that you would be available, or you would have aid and attendance available to you, is if you are a 100% rated veteran, or a VA pension eligible veteran or surviving spouse. The surviving spouse can also receive the aid and attendance as well. Additionally, there is dependency and indemnity compensation, which is for surviving spouses of service-connected death veterans, right? So a veteran who died due to a service-connected disability, or a veteran who died on active duty, the surviving spouse will receive this dependency and indemnity compensation. At that point, they are also eligible for the Massachusetts state annuity, which I will get into momentarily, as well as some other benefits with the property tax exemptions. MGL Chapter 115 is a needs-based, means-tested income assistance program, and the current rates for this year are income for a single person below $2,147, and if you are a married couple, it's your income monthly before taxes must be $2,904 or less, and assets below $8,400 for a single person and below $16,600 for a married couple. Common question with this on the assets is certain things do count as assets. Any cash, savings accounts, checking accounts, stocks, bonds, trusts, IRAs, a second vehicle only. So your home and your primary vehicle do not count as assets. So again, any questions on this can be directed to your Veteran Services Officer. They're the ones who conduct the initial application for all these benefits, especially this Chapter 115, being that it's a town-based benefit and it is reimbursed by 75% each year if done correctly by the towns. The state reimburses that 75% each year. Next, we have the Massachusetts state annuity, which I touched upon in the dependency and indemnity compensation. To be eligible for the Massachusetts state annuity for veterans, you must have that 100% permanent and total rating as a veteran, or surviving spouse of a 100% permanent and total veteran who held that rating for 10 or more years. In addition, if the veteran died of a service-connected disability, the spouse is also eligible to apply. Gold Star parents are also eligible to apply on an individual basis. So if there are two living parents of that veteran who passed away on active duty, making them Gold Star parents, each one is eligible to apply. And as that benefit looks right now, it is $1,000 tax-free given through that annuity, which is twice a year, once in February and once in August, a total of $2,000 a year tax-free on top of what our veterans and surviving spouses receive to be eligible. Next, we have the VA home loan, which we go into great detail in our VA home loan segment. I will save the details for that for our expert. And we also have the Easton Veterans Discretionary Fund here in Easton. It's a donation assistance fund. It is 100% donation driven. We have quite a bit of donations come in and out of that account each year. It goes to provide items necessary for daily living and to ensure the dignity and independence of our veterans in the town of Easton. That fund, a couple changes that we made that are important to note. Upon my, taking over the Veterans Department, we decided that the traditional definition of a veteran, which I talked about in the last slide, was not, maybe not the best definition to follow for this fund. The aim of this fund is to help anyone who needs the most help, and a lot of times we find that those are those folks who don't meet that criteria and they don't have any other benefits. So we decided to open our Easton Veterans Discretionary Fund to adopt a local definition of anyone who's ever served, anyone who's ever worn the uniform for one day or more, If you do not have a dishonorable discharge, you are eligible to seek assistance through this directly through my office. Next, we assist with the Welcome Home Bonus. This is, the requirements are to be a Massachusetts resident at time of entry. There are bonuses for each era served. So if you did not receive your bonus, say in Vietnam when you got home, please reach out to my office or reach out to your veteran service officer to get that information. They can help you determine whether you have received that or not and how you can apply. More recently, we have our welcome home bonuses for our returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. Those are some of the larger welcome home bonuses. We see some folks receive $1,000 for their first deployment and $500 for any subsequent deployment. There are multiple factors that determine how much money you'll receive, and that is determined by your DD-214, where you served. You can use citations from medals you received, commendation medals that say where you were, how long you were there, and your veteran service officer can help you apply and provide the documentation that will prove that location. On the next slide, we'll discuss education and career counseling benefits. So, first of all, you have your Chapter 30 Montgomery GI Bill. That is payment directly to the individual, and then tuition and fees are mostly covered. Basically, the individual will get their money directly deposited to them, and they will do the disbursement to their institution of higher education. And again, that pays most of the bills to in-state school for in-state tuition. You get into some of your more expensive schools, you may find that you are not receiving the full amount to pay that tuition and fees. It's all program dependent. Then you have the Chapter 1606 Montgomery GI Bill. This is the Reserve Education Benefit. And that provides a monthly stipend to the individual student. They are probably currently serving in the reserve on a 6x2 contract, and they're receiving this benefit. It amounts to, in the hundreds, probably about $500-600 a month. They report to the school that they are attending at a full-time basis. If they're attending at a part-time basis, that amount is prorated. And I would urge you to please see your VA education counselor at your institution, your school or university, and they will be able to tell you how much you can expect for each individual situation. Next, we have a Chapter 31 VR and E program. They recently changed their name from vocational rehab to VR and E, Veterans Readiness and Employment. And this benefit will cover tuition and fees, supplies, books, parking fee, counseling, and basically anything that is needed by the veteran for them to be successful and continue in school. The only thing they won't pay for are things that they don't directly relate to your attendance at the school or your education goals or your career goals. That's really, the program is focused around career. And again, we get into these benefits deep detail in our VA education benefits segment. So next we have the Chapter 33 Post 9/11 GI Bill. This benefit covers tuition, fees, BAH, book stipend. BAH is a basic allowance for housing. It's based off the zip code of the school, so not the zip code where you live. It is the zip code of the school. And then the tuition and fees are paid directly to the school. Now, if the tuition and fees exceeds the amount, which in Massachusetts is would be based off the most expensive state school, which if it hasn't changed, that was UMass Amherst. And if the tuition and fee amounts for your school exceed that amount, that of the most expensive state school, there is the Yellow Ribbon program, which can help bridge that gap. Say if you attend a private university that is more expensive than that cap. You may only transfer this benefit to dependents while you're still on active duty. That's a common misconception that you can transfer this after the fact, or you could transfer it to your grandchildren. Unfortunately, it's only transferable to your direct dependents, your spouse, children, stepchildren in some cases. but that needs to be done while you're still on active duty, and we'll go into some fine detail about that during our education segment. Chapter 35, Dependents Education Assistance. This provides roughly $1,300 a month to a full-time student. This is usually, it's always a dependent of a veteran, but in some off cases that dependent could also be a veteran themselves. So, you may only use one of these federal benefits at a time. This particular benefit is similar to the stipend program in the Chapter 1606 Montgomery GI Bill on a larger scale. These folks receive a $1,300 roughly a month. That number seems to go up each year. And it is to the dependents of 100% permanently and totally disabled sponsor, which would be a veteran. And that's for each of their dependents. So say a veteran who's 100% permanent in total, they have 10 dependents. Well, each one of those gets their own Chapter 35 benefits to use. It is limited to the number of months, and it's usually enough to complete the degree and in a traditional program. And it's roughly, like I said, $1,300 a month, that number changing each year. And those students, those dependents are urged to contact their VA education representative at their institution to apply and use this benefit each semester. Additionally, heavy on the career counseling here, we have Mass Hire Career Center. They got their DVOPS, unemployment services, resume services. They can help you, get connected to career resources and find a good connection for you coming out of the military to, what may be a good fit for you if you're looking to enter the workforce directly. Again, resources to help get yourself prepared for that as well. Contact those folks with the state. Next, we will discuss medical assistance for veterans. So, VA health care is available to all veterans who are granted a discharge under honorable conditions. This includes the general under honorable conditions. That's another common misconception. A lot of veterans also get upgraded for VA healthcare purposes only. So this is also provided that they meet financial criteria or have a service-connected disability. It's also available for all global war on terrorism veterans who have been discharged during the past 5 years. So you can attend your first VA appointment and then make sure you follow up within those 5 years and you will still be covered. We discuss the VA also in great detail during another segment as well, and you'll be able to hear much more about that. So some other benefits and services locally that are offered. Out of my office, we offer flags and markers, so you can see them in the picture here, the picture on the left. They're the grave flags, and they fit into the markers, which we have markers for each conflict from the Civil War all the way to current global war on terror, OEF, OIF. And then we also have plain U.S. veteran markers for those who may be unsure which category they fit into or which category their loved one fit into. We give the U.S. veteran, it's a beautiful marker. They're made of heavy bronze. And the markers tend to last quite a while, but the flags get replaced every year in May before Memorial Day. My office, VFW commander, Legion commander, and many of their members, along with local students, Easton Public School students come out, and there's about 40 to 50 of us go out and we do all 1,300 flags get replaced before Memorial Day so their loved ones can go honor their veteran at their grave site. Another benefit that's available is this burial at a national cemetery. Now, veterans are afforded this burial at no cost. They are given a gravestone, a flat gravestone, or another gravestone of their choosing, as long as it's accepted by the cemetery in which they are buried. The National Cemetery has the flat markers, and they're able to put the veteran's name, dates of service, date of birth, date of death, branch of service, any special medals or citations received. They can fit quite a few characters on there. It's a pretty great service, and once those are ordered, they're usually sent about 3 to 4 months, and they get installed The National Cemetery has a quicker timeline on that, and they do direct install and handle all that directly. But those stones are also available for private cemeteries as well. They are coordinated through the cemetery directors, funeral directors, and the families themselves on the installation. To receive military honors at a funeral, the first step is always to speak with your funeral director. They usually contact the National Guard units. If it's Air Force or Army, they'll contact the other branches as they're able. And they also have resources with the Patriot Riders and other organizations that provide honors for veterans at a funeral, whether it's an escort from the funeral home to the cemetery. They do some pretty amazing things, and you see some pretty amazing tributes to our veterans by these organizations. The VFW and American Legion in town, I have a segment coming up shortly where we meet with both commanders separately, and they discuss what their organizations do in our community, how we work together with them, and what they do to provide support to the community at large. We have many other service organizations and nonprofits locally that we lean on and we lend a hand to as well. Service organizations that assist financially, they assist with mental health treatment, they offer free programs for veterans. It's amazing, you name it, and it's out there. And there's a lot of services for veterans out there in the nonprofit world. Another service that we provide advice on is getting that veteran's annotation on your license or getting a veteran's ID card. The veteran annotation on the license, that's done obviously through the Registry of Motor Vehicles, and the ID cards are done through your local military bases. If you have that 100% service-connected disability and you are eligible, or you are a spouse who's eligible, those are done at those specific duty stations, active duty ID card locations. There are various locations across the state. They make their own appointments and their own hours, so please contact them directly. There's one at Joint Base Cape Cod, Hanscom Air Force Base. There are other locations as well that can be found on their website. I also handle DD-214 requests through my office. We just need some basic information: social security number, date of birth, the veteran's name, dates served, and we are able to, in most cases, get that DD-214 either through state archives or national archives. State is a pretty instant request, and the National Archives takes, lately it's been taking upwards to 6 months or more. Something to also be on the lookout is that hiring preference for military or time buyback for local, state, and federal government jobs. Currently, there are hiring preferences all over for military veterans in the private, nonprofit, and public sector jobs. Especially your federal jobs, they're going to have that hiring preference at 10-point, 30-point, based off of your service-connected disability and veteran status. Now, the military buyback time, that's another one that is commonly requested, is in local and state government, veterans can buy back 4 years of their active duty time. Now, federal government, they can buy back all of their government time, or all of their federal service through the armed forces service that they completed. They can apply that to their federal government job or their state and local government job, which is pretty amazing. They will spend some money buying that back, but it results in an earlier retirement date, or a higher retirement pay, or however you work it out with your retirement board, whether it's your local and state or the federal government. It can definitely benefit you to look into buying back that time. And I'd like to just end this summary with discussing our veterans' greatest needs. So, it's always individualized care. Veterans are people too, and they need the same things everyone else needs, right? So I like to, when we're looking at a problem, rather than say, oh, it's a veteran problem, or it's this type of person problem, it's a problem, right? And a lot of the similar solutions we use for other situations can be used to help veterans as well. that's not to say that there aren't specific cases where veterans do need that individualized special treatment that is outside of the norm. But for the most part, I think the greatest needs are just taking that extra time to get the whole story and show that you care. Whole health treatment is huge, that mind, body, spirit. If you got a problem for each one of those things, there's a solution in each one of those categories as well. And the continuity and follow through of the service providers, that's huge. So, to start the process with a veteran if they're having an issue is one thing, but to follow up and follow through, that means, that can mean a world of difference to that person who's going through that tough time, or, sometimes what we need is that follow-up to keep us on the right track and keep us on the path to getting a problem resolved. Community support is another huge one. It's something we see a lot here in Easton. We see a lot of community members show up to our Veterans Day or Memorial Day parades. Community members show up to reflag the graves, like I had mentioned. Community support goes without saying is one of the biggest needs that our veterans have when they're coming home, is to know that they're welcomed and supported, and that they can fit back into society in their own way. And awareness and knowledge of what's available. Outreach is one of my most difficult pieces of my job, is making sure everybody hears what they need to hear, right? So the responsibility is really on all of us to spread the word for anything that can help. Word of mouth is probably one of my best ways of getting resources out to those who the resources are available to. It's amazing the amount of people I hear, they call me, they say, oh, my neighbor mentioned you, and wanted to come see what was available, or I saw this newsletter, or I saw this email, or this post on social media. So there's not one size fits all when it comes to outreach. We need to have outreach across the board. So just awareness and knowledge of what is out there is number one, and it helps me do my job. So, and I'd like to just thank all of our Eastern residents for helping me to provide the support that I am able to our veterans, whether it's through, financial assistance, or just being there for them to hear, or, showing up to a Veterans Day ceremony or Memorial Day ceremony. I couldn't do it without the support of the community. So I speak for all veterans when I say thank you for your support, and we thank all our veterans for their service. All right, our next guest here I've known for quite a while. It's Kevin Burl. He's the Veterans Outreach Program Specialist for the Brockton Vet Center. And we've worked together in a variety of areas, first meeting at Bridgewater State University as fellow veteran students who were using the services offered by that Veterans Center there. And Kevin's a retired U.S. Army Master Sergeant who served in Iraq and Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne. Kevin's also Ranger qualified and is currently pursuing a degree in social work. So Kevin, thank you so much for being here today. I'm glad to have you.
Thanks. Really appreciate you asking me to be here and coming to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's great. So Kevin, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you came to start working at the Vet Center, and feel free to tell us a little bit about what the Vet Center does.
So the Vet Center, we're part of the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm sure we'll get into it later, a little same but different, but I started out actually as a client at the Vet Center when I came back from Afghanistan.
Yep.
Having some problems myself and dealing with some, just dealing with different things, and it was a good place to go to talk to somebody, work through some of the stuff, and that kind of motivated me down my future career path into eventually working at the Vet Center and pursuing my degree in social work. So that's kind of how I got into the Vet Center, how I learned about the Vet Center. They kind of call it the best kept secret in the VA because not a lot of people know about it, and that's why we like to get out and talk to people. That's how my job came about, to go out to the community and let people know who we are and what we do.
That's awesome. I think that's probably one of the best ways to get into the field is having been the recipient of those services yourself. And I can relate similarly, in a different way to being a recipient of services, and then realizing, hey, maybe I can provide something a little different that maybe I missed, or maybe there's something I really liked about the treatment I received that I want to carry on to the next veteran. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of after going through that and getting myself back on track. It was kind of my motivation to give back to my fellow veterans and the community around us. So if I could just help one veteran, save one veteran, then I think I was doing my job.
Yeah, I identify with that 100%. So could you tell us, who's eligible to receive services at the Vet Center and what type of services are offered?
So the Vet Center actually came about in 1979. It's basically one of the newer VA programs. We were started by Vietnam veterans who didn't receive the services that they should have received from the VA when they returned home from Vietnam. So these guys kind of got together in groups and garages, churches, living rooms, wherever they could get together and talk about some of their experiences in Vietnam and help each other. So it was all about helping each other.
That's awesome.
So then the VA finally caught on and said, hey, something is going right here. Let's get on board with this. And the Vet Center was chartered by Congress in 1979. And they kind of made it separate. We're still separate from the VA. We're not on the VA campuses.
Right. Like records don't get shared between?
Nope, there's no, we have access to records at the VA.
Gotcha.
The VA does not have access to our records.
Okay.
And again, everything has to be at the discretion of the veteran if they want it done.
Right.
We have a higher level of confidentiality. We don't share records with anybody, the Department of Defense, different services, the VA, towns, other mental health professionals.
Right.
Everything we have stays within our own system. So under that note, we do have a little bit different eligibility than the VA. Anybody that qualifies as a veteran is able to use the VA. The Vet Centers initially started out as, I don't like to use the term combat veterans, but the term combat veterans, anybody that served in a hostile fire zone. Doesn't mean they were actually on the ground, using a weapon, but if they served in a hostile fire zone.
Right.
Anybody that served in those areas, anybody that's a survivor of a military sexual trauma at any time while they're in the military, whether on duty or off duty.
Yeah, now question on that. So MST, military sexual trauma, right? We get into some pretty confidential stuff when it comes to that. Does there have to be an official report or just a diagnosis, or does it have to be, on the books somewhere, proof, or is it you say you are if you are? If you are, you say you are.
That's 100% correct.
Okay.
If somebody comes in, says that they are a survivor of military sexual trauma, we take them at their word.
Absolutely, yeah, great.
Because many times it goes unreported.
Absolutely.
People are scared to report.
Right.
There's a myriad of reasons why they may not report it.
Yes.
So we take them for their word.
Good.
If they come in and they say male, female, it doesn't matter who they are.
Yep.
If they say they're a survivor of the military sexual trauma, then we believe them, no questions asked. It's usually not something you're going to see on a DD-214 or anything like that, or even have a police report on. So we take them for their word, and we will, whatever treatment they need, then we offer.
I can speak from my role in, where we're discussing here is filing the VA claim, right? Mm-hmm. So we get someone who has experienced a military sexual trauma. The claim we file is PTSD, right? Caused by this, non-combat, other than combat, it's a sexual assault. So we often have trouble gathering evidence for that. And I refer people to the Vet Center specifically when I hear that this is something they've experienced. They get the referral from me to come over to you folks and get that treatment. And I think something from my perspective, because I've never used the Vet Center myself, but something from my perspective that makes the Vet Center different is that it's like not so much of a medical environment. It's more of a, like you said, like there's people meeting in, living rooms and garages.
Right.
And it's more of a community center for veterans who, I know you say you don't like the term combat veteran, which I kind of agree with. Combat's changed so much over the span, but I think it's more of a friendly group environment rather than a medical, sterile hospital environment.
Yeah, I like to call it, we're kind of a grassroots organization.
Yeah.
We're community-based. When you walk in our door, there's somebody there to greet you. If you call us, most of the time, 99% of the time, somebody's going to answer the phone, unless it's after hours, and then it goes to what we call our combat call center, where there's, again, a live person that answers the phone that can help you navigate whatever is going on, whether you're just looking to follow up with an appointment or whatever you're trying to do.
Great.
You come in the door, we have our TV in there, we have our coffee pot, we have our office manager sitting right there to greet you.
Yeah.
we don't have the sterile hospital look to it. It's a nice, comforting, welcoming area. Even our group rooms and offices are all individualized and everything. So it's a lot more comfortable. It's a nicer area, and that's again when I started using the services. That's what I first noticed when I walked in. I said, well, this is a much nicer place than the VA, and I love the VA too, and I use the VA as well. Yep. But it just felt a little bit nicer and a little more welcoming and comforting over there. Yeah.
And you're coming in there with, the qualifying events to get you in the door are traumatic, correct, right? So you don't want to show up to a place that's not welcoming. So I think that's the perfect setting for to offer those services. So. So on that, I understand you have a new location in Brockton. Would you mind telling me a little bit about that location and then maybe touch on where the other locations are in the state?
Yeah, so we are actually located at 1 Pearl Street in Brockton. Okay. It's the corner of Pearl and Pleasant, which is the Pleasant building and the Pearl building. So we're actually in the Pleasant building. Our offices face that corner of Pearl and Pleasant, or the Hancock Park across the street. Okay. We have I think it's 22 reserved veteran parking spaces there. Nice. Which is huge.
Better parking than over at White's Bakery
area? Yeah, from when we were over at the other end of Pearl Street.
Yes. Yep.
So we've been there since March. Yep. We're up on the 2nd floor, so the exact address is 1 Pearl Street, Suite 2300. Okay. There are actually, across the country, there are over 300 vet center locations. Wow. But here in Massachusetts, we have obviously Brockton, Cape Cod, Worcester, Springfield, Lowell, and I think that's it. Okay. And another big thing for us is we actually have community access points too. So not a lot of people can get to Brockton, but they may fall in what we call as our catchment area, our spot on the map. Yep. So we have areas like we have a spot out in Holliston. Okay. That we have a counselor there 1 day a week. Nice. And other vet centers have places
like a satellite type.
It's like a satellite, yeah. Okay. We call it a community access point. Okay. So most vet centers across the country have stuff like that. That it's a little harder to veterans to drive 45 minutes. So let's go to their area and have somebody there 1 day a week that we can make appointments, or 2 days a week, whatever the need is.
Yeah. So I think you probably named 4 or 5 locations that we have in Massachusetts. Or?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And I tell people all the time, we're spoiled here in the Northeast. We have VAs galore, where out in the Midwest you got to hop a flight to get to your VA, or they have nonprofits that charter flights for veterans. So take advantage of these services out there. We have these are wonderful services that are in our communities, and don't let. Take advantage of these services. Yeah. So anyway, so could you tell me a little bit about what your role is at the vet center?
So like you said in the beginning, I'm the Veteran Outreach Program Specialist. So my job basically is to get the word out to the community. Okay. If we have any events, it doesn't have to be veteran-centric. I try to find outside-of-the-box events that everybody goes to, and we just try to harness in the veterans. And it may not even be the veteran, it may be a family member. Right. So if we can it could be a parade, it could be a food festival, it could be a baseball game. Yeah. Anything that they'll let me come in and set up a tent and put a table out and talk to people about what we do, I'm willing to be there. That's awesome. So even anybody watching the show, if they have an event and they want us there to represent the vet center and get the word out to some veterans, we're willing to do that. All you have to do is give us a call, tell us when it is, and we'll try to get out there. Yep. I do a lot of the other stuff too, like we have a website that I run. I kind of equate it to marketing. Try to market our vet center, get it out there, get the word out there. Great. I also would do some work, some groups with some of the veterans. I've done some work in some of the prisons around here, veteran groups in the county jails and the state jail, just to try to get some of these guys that have fallen on hard times, and lift them up a little bit, help them get some of the benefits that they have earned while they're in. Just because they're incarcerated doesn't mean they still didn't earn benefits. Absolutely. And a lot of times, the stuff that they're in prison for or jail is drug or PTSD related.
Nonviolent crimes. Or
So just trying to give them a help out when they're getting out of jail. Definitely. And one thing I meant to add when we were talking before is, one great thing about the vet centers too is a lot of our counselors in there are veterans. Mm-hmm. That's right. We have a higher percentage of veterans. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think we're at like 60% veterans at mine. Like I'm a veteran, my director is a veteran, our MST coordinator is a veteran. Yeah, and we have males and female counselors as well. It's about a 50-50 mix where we are.
Yeah.
So it's important, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if it's a male or female
Sure.
counselor, but some people might have had circumstances in life where they are only comfortable with one or the other.
Right.
So we do a lot around that, and we're actually really involved with the LGBTQI community too,
Great.
and we do offer counseling around things related to that, their veteran status and those how they identify and stuff. So
Right. Discharge upgrades related.
yeah, because there was a lot of that from, I'm sure from the 80s
Definitely.
and 90s, 70s, and we help out with a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's great.
We provide. I like to tell people we're not able to do the discharge upgrades. We're not able to do a lot of
Sure.
stuff. That's obviously your job.
Yeah.
I mean, like you spoke about with the MST, but we provide the evidence.
Oh, yeah.
For the people. So if they come to us for whatever the issue is, whatever they're experiencing, we can provide the evidence to help them get either their compensation, their upgrades,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's a great asset for people in your position to
Definitely.
help the veterans and stuff too.
Yeah, no, I refer veterans all the time, and it's funny, it's usually what gets their foot in the door, and I find out it's kind of the hook that reels them in, is they go there to maybe get their diagnosis or get their evidence for their claim, and they end up saying they enjoy the groups, and,
Yeah.
and they get a lot out of it, and they realize it's something that they maybe wrote off as, that's not for me, but they get in there and they get those groups and they get to know the guys and the women and men that are in those groups, and they identify with them.
Right.
And it becomes a community that they never thought they needed,
And if you're speaking about groups, the mixture and eclectic groups that we have I'm still amazed. Like I was doing some work with the groups today, and we have police and firefighter groups.
Yeah,
We have
that's awesome.
We have multi-generational combat veteran groups.
Yep.
We have Vietnam groups. We have OEF, OIF, Desert Storm groups. We have military sexual trauma groups.
Yeah.
And some of the other stuff that we do stuff outside. There's a hiking group. There's a beekeeping group.
Wow.
We have a golf group. So we have some really cool groups, and like you said, we have one group that's been meeting together for 25 years.
That's awesome.
And that's all they do. They come in, they drink coffee, and they talk about stuff. And sometimes it takes guys 20 years to bring something up.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Guys or females. But
Yeah, absolutely.
They're great groups. I've sat in on almost every group we have as part of my studies.
Yeah.
And I've learned more from just listening to these people in these groups than I probably ever have at school.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. So.
No, and I mean, and especially the older generations. I mean, to just kind of backtrack to where you said this all started, this vet center, with the Vietnam veterans coming home. I mean, there wasn't even, PTSD wasn't a blip on the radar in those years.
Right.
They called it shell shock, or they called it, war neurosis, or whatever they called
Correct,
it.
yeah.
Mental health was nowhere near what it is today. And I think, the shining the light on what mental health struggles actually are is, it goes perfectly hand in hand with what you all do at the vet center.
Yeah, and I always tell the Vietnam veterans that if it wasn't for them and what they went through, the people of our generation wouldn't
right.
have the services that we have now.
You're right.
So besides thanking them for their service, I also thank them for that, because it's just amazing the services that we have now.
Yeah.
The services that we can provide at our vet center and the VA is because of people like them fighting
Yep.
to get what they earned.
Fighting to get what they earned, and showing, whoever it may be, the VA, Congress, whoever it may be, that the way that we used to do things doesn't always work forever,
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing the amount of Vietnam veterans I see who they put off what they deserve, what they've earned, for one reason or another, whether it's pride or they think the next guy deserves it more than them or whatever it is. But I think the vet center, has done a great job over the decades of kind of getting rid of that stigma of, but so to them, welcome home, those Vietnam veterans for sure. So lastly, I'd like to ask you, what advice would you give to veterans who are struggling with mental health issues, who might be hesitant to, that's a tough thing to do, is
Yes.
to go talk about how you're feeling, and especially when you're coming out of a culture in the military that may make you feel you're not supposed to talk about those things. What advice would you have?
I know it sounds easy, just talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be your veteran service officer.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be the VA. It can be a loved one. It can be a friend.
Yeah.
It can be somebody. And you'll find out once you start talking to people about it, it gets easier. It's never 100%, never goes away, but it does get easier. And the more you're able to talk about it, the more you're able to share, you're going to find people, you're going to think you're the only one. You may think, I'm the only one that thinks this way. All the guys I served with, they're fine. They're hard as nails. I'm the only one. Well, you're going to find out it's not. It's a lot of people, experiences, the same experiences you're having. And the more you talk about it, the different evidence-based practices that we use that can help people either change their thinking. Like we're big on cognitive processing therapy, changing people's thinking, changing the way you feel about yourself, changing the way you feel about what happened, and the incidents that happened. People dealing with survivor's guilt, trying to when they saw their buddies die, stuff like that. Just trying to deal with that stuff, but just taking that first step and reaching out and talking to somebody. That's huge, and it can be a lifesaver.
Right. So just open the door on that fear of, sharing how you're feeling, and you see someone identifies with you, and then I'm sure that makes it a little easier to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like a lot of the veterans come in and they know I'm a Iraq and Afghanistan vet, and they, they'll all of a sudden sit down and talk to me 15 minutes before their appointment.
Right.
So, and a lot of them will report to their counselor, just sitting talking to Kevin for 10 minutes is, made it a lot better. And I'm not a counselor. I just another guy that served overseas.
Well, you're an example. You're a power of example. They can look at you and say, worked for this guy. Let's hope it works for me. And I think I can identify with that big time. Identifying is key, I think, into dealing with some of these things.
Right.
For sure.
And that guy that you said that didn't want to reach out, that was me before I started going into the vet center. So that's why it opened my mind, changed my thinking. It made me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here right now or be in this position if it wasn't for the vet center back in 10 years ago when I started going to the vet center. So
sure, no, that's great.
To me it's the best place, and I know we help a lot of veterans, and we look forward to continue to help a lot of veterans.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you being here today, Kevin, to spread awareness about the vet center. I think it's a great job that you guys are doing over there, and I look forward to continuing to refer Easton veterans to your services.
I definitely appreciate you having us here, and thank you for the referrals, and we're going to do the best to help all of them.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in and learning about the amazing benefits that are available to our veterans. If you have any specific questions regarding your eligibility, please reach out to your Veteran Services Officer located in your town or city hall. If you live in Easton, please reach out to me, and I'd be glad to help. I can be reached by email at cahonen@easton.ma.us or by telephone at 508-230-0690. Also, be sure to check out the other videos in this series that outline numerous other benefits that are available to our veterans. As always, thank you for your support and continued service to our veterans.